The Grand Metropolitan Hotel's ballroom sparkled like a jewel box, crystal chandeliers casting dancing shadows across marble floors worth more than most people's homes. Chen adjusted her black uniform for the 100th time that evening, her hands trembling slightly as she balanced another tray of champagne glasses. At 28, she had learned to navigate these glittering worlds of wealth while remaining invisible, a skill that kept food on her table and paid for her daughter's medical bills. Tonight's charity gala was different. The guest list read like a Forbes magazine feature: tech moguls, oil barons, entertainment dynasties. Among them stood Alexander Sterling, the 34-year-old tech billionaire whose fortune had been built on revolutionary AI software. His steel-gray eyes surveyed the room with the calculation of a man who saw everything in terms of profit margins and strategic advantage. Maya had served at dozens of these events, but something about tonight felt charged with possibility or perhaps disaster. She couldn't have known that in the next 60 seconds, her life would change forever. She moved gracefully between clusters of guests, offering champagne and canapes, her trained smile never wavering despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. 3 jobs, medical bills, rent due in 5 days, a number spun in her head like a relentless calculator. But Maya had learned to compartmentalize worry. Right now, she just needed to make it through the evening, without incident. Alexander Sterling stood near the auction display, his custom Armani suit fitting his tall frame perfectly. He was examining a rare painting donated for the evening's cause childhood cancer research. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd written the foundation a check for $50,000 without blinking, yet hadn't spoken to a child in years. Charity was good for his public image, nothing more. Maya approached his group, tray extended, when disaster struck in the most ordinary way. A guest stepped backward unexpectedly, bumping Maya just as she navigated around a decorative pillar. Time seemed to slow as she struggled to regain her balance, the tray tilting dangerously. Champagne glasses began their inevitable journey toward gravity's pull. Alexander turned at the commotion, instinctively reaching out to help steady the falling waitress. But physics had already taken control. Maya's knee caught the fabric of his pants at the exact moment she fell forward, and the sound of tearing silk filled the sudden silence like a gunshot. The room fell quiet. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward the spectacle of the young waitress sprawled on the floor beside the billionaire, whose expensive pants now sported a tier running from knee to ankle, revealing designer boxer shorts to 300 of the city's most influential people. Maya's face burned with humiliation as she scrambled to collect the broken glass, apologizing profusely. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. Please, I'll pay for the damage." Alexander looked down at his ruined suit, then at the young woman desperately gathering champagne-soaked fragments. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, or recognition, but his expression remained impassive as hotel security and management descended upon the scene. "Get her out of here," the hotel manager hissed, grabbing Maya's arm roughly. "You're fired. Don't expect your final paycheck. It won't even cover the cost of Mr. Sterling's suit." As Maya was escorted away, fighting back tears, Alexander watched her go. He should have felt angry, inconvenienced, embarrassed. Instead, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years: curiosity about another human being's story. Maya's hands shook as she changed out of her uniform in the staff locker room, her reflection in the small mirror showing a woman on the edge of complete breakdown. The $20 hourly wage from tonight's event was supposed to help her catch up on Emma's medication costs. Now she faced returning home empty-handed to her 6-year-old daughter, who was battling leukemia with the innocent faith that her mother could fix anything. The bus ride home to their cramped one-bedroom apartment took 40 minutes of Maya staring out the window, calculating and recalculating impossible numbers. Rent, $800. Emma's medication, $300. Groceries, $150. Her other job at the diner paid minimum wage, and her weekend housekeeping gig barely covered utilities. Tonight's disaster had eliminated her highest-paying source of income. Emma was asleep when Maya slipped into their apartment, her small form dwarfed by the hospital bed the insurance company had provided. Tubes connected to her port medication pump created a mechanical symphony that had become the soundtrack of their lives. Maya kissed her daughter's forehead, feeling the familiar spike of panic at how warm her skin felt. "Mommy?" Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "How was the fancy party?" Maya forced brightness into her voice. "It was beautiful, sweetheart, full of sparkly dresses and important people. Did you meet any princes?" Emma's eyes fluttered open, still heavy with sleep and medication. "Not tonight, baby, but maybe next time." The lie came easily. She'd become an expert at protecting her daughter from harsh realities. Meanwhile, across the city in his penthouse office, Alexander Sterling stood before floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering metropolis. His ruined suit lay draped over a chair, but his mind wasn't on the expensive fabric. Something about the waitress's face haunted him, the genuine terror in her eyes when she realized what happened, the desperate way she'd apologized, the proud tilt of her chin even as she was being humiliated. He'd built his fortune on reading people, on understanding what motivated them. Most people who approached him wanted something: money, connections, opportunities. But the waitress had seemed horrified by the attention, desperate to disappear. That kind of genuine distress was rare in his world of calculated interactions. Alexander picked up his phone and dialed his head of security. "James, I need you to find someone for me. A waitress from tonight's event at the Grand Metropolitan. Young woman, Asian, probably late 20s. She had an incident during the evening." "Of course, Mr. Sterling. Any particular reason?" Alexander paused, unsure how to explain the compulsion driving him. "Let's call it due diligence." Within 2 hours, James had delivered a complete dossier. Maya Chen, 28 years old, single mother to Emma Chen, age 6. Father absent from birth records. Maya worked 3 jobs, had no criminal record, excellent references from all employers. Emma was undergoing treatment for acute lymphoblastic leukemia at Children's Hospital. Medical bills, catastrophic. Insurance coverage, minimal. Alexander read the report twice, his jaw tightening with each detail. He'd assumed the waitress was young and careless, perhaps looking for an easy payday from embarrassing a wealthy guest. Instead, he discovered a woman shouldering impossible burdens with quiet dignity. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. "Tomorrow's schedule includes a board meeting at 9, lunch with investors at noon, and the Charity Planning Committee at 3. The Charity Planning Committee. Children's Cancer Research. Alexander stared at the words, then at Maya's file. Sometimes the universe had a twisted sense of humor. Maya arrived at the diner for her morning shift with dark circles under her eyes and dread weighing on her chest. She'd spent the night running numbers, trying to figure out how to replace the income from the hotel events. Her boss, Tony, looked up from the grill as she tied her apron. "You look like hell, kiddo." "Thanks, Tony. Really what every girl wants to hear." "I'm serious." "You okay, Emma?" Maya's throat tightened. Tony had been kind to her since she started working at the diner, often letting her take leftover food home and adjusting her schedule around Emma's doctor appointments. But kindness didn't pay medical bills. "We're managing," she said, the response she gave everyone who asked. The morning rush was typical: coffee, eggs, and toast for construction workers and office employees grabbing breakfast before another day in their own survival stories. Maya moved through the routine automatically, but her mind kept drifting to Emma's upcoming treatment cycle and the insurance company's latest denial letter. At 11:30, the bell above the diner door chimed, and Maya looked up to see a man in an expensive suit scanning the modest restaurant. Her heart stopped. Alexander Sterling stood in the doorway of Tony's diner, like a peacock in a pigeon coop, his presence commanding attention from every patron. Their eyes met across the room, and Maya felt her face burn with renewed humiliation. She grabbed a menu and approached his table, praying her voice would remain steady. "Can I get you some coffee?" she asked, not meeting his gaze. "Please." His voice was gentler than she remembered from the night before. "And I'd like to apologize for last evening." Maya's hand paused over his coffee cup. "You want to apologize?" "Sir, I ruined your suit in front of. You want to know what that suit cost?" Alexander interrupted. Maya's stomach dropped. Here it comes, she thought. The demand for payment she couldn't possibly afford. $12,000, he continued. "Do you know what I make in the time it took me to put on this morning?" Maya shook her head, afraid to speak. More than most people make in a year. That suit is meaningless to me. But losing your job isn't meaningless to you, is it? The kindness in his voice was more unnerving than anger would have been. Maya had prepared for threats, demands, legal action. She hadn't prepared for understanding. "I don't want your pity," she said quietly, filling his coffee cup with hands that barely trembled. "Good, because I'm not offering pity. I'm offering an opportunity." Alexander reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. "I've been looking for someone to manage household staff for my properties. It's a legitimate position with legitimate pay, $60,000 annually, plus health insurance and housing allowance." Maya stared at the card as if it were written in a foreign language. "Why?" "Because I believe in second chances. And because you have something most people I encounter don't have." "What's that?" "Integrity." Before Maya could respond, Alexander stood and placed a $20 bill next to his untouched coffee. "Think about it. But don't take too long. Emma's next treatment cycle starts Monday." Maya's blood went cold. "How do you know about Emma?" Alexander's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Because unlike most people in my position, I make it my business to understand situations before I judge them. Your daughter is lucky to have a mother who would sacrifice everything for her health and happiness." He walked toward the door, then turned back. "The job offer is real, Maya. No strings attached, no expectations beyond professional competence. Sometimes the universe provides exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. The question is whether we're brave enough to accept it." The bell chimed as he left, leaving Maya standing in the middle of the diner, holding a business card that felt like a lifeline and a trap simultaneously. Maya spent 3 days researching Alexander Sterling, diving deep into public records, news articles, and employee reviews of his companies. What she found surprised her. Despite his reputation for being cold and calculating in business, Sterling Industries had one of the highest employee satisfaction ratings in the tech sector. His companies offered comprehensive health care, flexible schedules for parents, and generous family leave policies. More intriguingly, she discovered that Alexander had grown up in foster care after his parents died in a car accident when he was 7. He'd built his fortune from nothing, working his way through MIT on scholarships and student loans. The ruthless businessman facade seemed to hide something more complex. On Thursday evening, Emma had a particularly difficult day with her treatment. Maya sat beside her daughter's bed, gently stroking her thin hair as Emma struggled with nausea and exhaustion. "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" Emma asked, her voice small and frightened. Maya's heart clenched. Her 6-year-old daughter shouldn't have to worry about adult problems. But children with serious illnesses grew up fast. Emma had heard enough hushed phone conversations with insurance companies and bill collectors to understand that their situation was precarious. "We're going to be fine, sweetheart. Mommy's going to make sure of that. Promise?" Maya looked into her daughter's eyes, so trusting, so full of faith in her mother's ability to solve any problem. "I promise." That night, after Emma finally fell asleep, Maya called the number on Alexander's business card. "Sterling," he answered on the first ring. "It's Maya Chen, the waitress who ruined your suit. I remember. Have you made a decision?" Maya took a deep breath. "I have conditions. I'm listening. I need flexible hours around Emma's treatment schedule. I need to know exactly what my responsibilities are, no surprises, no hidden expectations. And I need to know why you're really doing this." Alexander was quiet for a long moment. "The first 2 conditions are easily met. As for the third," he paused. "When I was 7 years old, my parents were killed by a drunk driver. I spent the next 11 years in the foster system. I learned early that the world is divided into people who help and people who hurt, with very few in between. You spent one evening taking care of people who had everything while you were struggling to afford your daughter's medication. That tells me which category you belong to. That doesn't explain why you care. Because 18 years ago, a diner waitress in Boston noticed that a foster kid was hanging around outside her restaurant every day after school. Instead of calling the cops, she started saving leftover food for me. She never asked questions, never made me feel like charity. She just helped. Her name was Rose Chen." Maya's breath caught. That was my aunt. I thought the name might be familiar. Rose gave me the first real kindness I'd experienced since my parents died. She probably saved my life and definitely changed it. I've been looking for a way to honor that gift for years. Tears streamed down Maya's face. Aunt Rose had died when Maya was 16, but she remembered the stories about the quiet acts of kindness that defined her aunt's life. So you see, Alexander continued, this isn't charity. It's paying a debt I've owed for 18 years. When do I start? Maya whispered, Monday morning. I'll have James send you the details. And Maya, your daughter is going to be okay. I'm going to make sure of that. Maya's first day as household manager for Sterling Industries Executive Properties felt like stepping into an alternate universe. Alexander's primary residence was a converted warehouse in the arts district of space that managed to be both minimalist and warm, filled with original artwork and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. The job is straightforward, Alexander explained as he showed her through the space. Coordinate with the cleaning service, manage deliveries and maintenance requests, organize my calendar for personal appointments. There are 2 other properties, a lake house and a downtown penthouse used for business entertaining. Same responsibilities. Maya nodded, taking notes on everything. The salary was more than she'd made from all 3 of her previous jobs combined, and the health insurance would cover Emma's treatments without the constant battles with insurance companies. There's something else, Alexander said, leading her to a small office space near the main living area. This is yours. Computer, phone, filing system. But I had them install a daybed and some medical equipment. Emma is welcome here whenever you need to work and she needs supervision. Maya stared at the space, noting the child-sized furniture in one corner, the mini refrigerator that could store medications, the air purifier that would help protect Emma's compromised immune system. How did you know? I called Dr. Martinez at Children's Hospital. With your permission, of course I had James add you to the HIPAA forms we signed. Emma's going into a more intensive treatment phase, and you'll need flexibility. Maya felt overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the arrangements. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. Let's see how we work together first. Over the following weeks, Maya discovered that Alexander Sterling was nothing like his public persona. He worked 18-hour days, but always asked about Emma's treatment progress. He was impatient with incompetence, but unfailingly kind to Maya when she needed to adjust her schedule for medical appointments. He had no social life to speak of, but filled his home with art that suggested a deep appreciation for beauty and human creativity. Emma visited the warehouse twice when her nausea was too severe for daycare, but not severe enough for hospitalization. Alexander had been traveling both times. But Maya found small gifts waiting for her daughter art supplies, books, a stuffed animal that looked suspiciously like it came from a very expensive toy store. Your boss is nice, Emma told Maya one evening as they walked to the nearby park. He left me that book about the girl who saved the dragons. He's not exactly nice, Maya corrected gently. He's complicated. Complicated how? Maya considered the question. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that some people build walls around their hearts to protect themselves from being hurt, but sometimes the walls become prisons? He cares about people, but he's not good at showing it. Like Tommy at the hospital. He's always grumpy, but Nurse Sarah says it's because he's scared. Children, Maya reflected, often understood emotional truths that adults spent years complicating. The turning point came 6 weeks into Maya's employment. Emma had been admitted to the hospital for complications from her treatment, a dangerous infection that required immediate intervention. Maya called Alexander to explain she wouldn't be able to work for several days. Which hospital? He asked immediately. Children's Hospital. But Mr. Sterling, you don't need to. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Maya hung up, confused and touched by his response. Alexander Sterling didn't owe her anything beyond their professional relationship. But 20 minutes later, he walked into the pediatric ICU carrying coffee for Maya and a teddy bear wearing a tiny superhero cape for Emma. How is she? He asked quietly. Stable. The antibiotics are working, but it'll be touch and go for the next few days. Alexander nodded, then did something that surprised Maya completely. He sat down in the uncomfortable hospital chair beside her and stayed. For 6 hours. He sat with Maya, occasionally talking quietly about work or books or nothing at all, but mostly just being present in a way that makes difficult times bearable. When Emma woke up that evening, weak but alert, the first thing she saw was a teddy bear. "He's perfect," she whispered. "What's his name?" "You get to name him," Alexander said, leaning forward in his chair. Emma considered this seriously. "Sterling, like you, because he's going to protect me while I get better." Alexander's composure cracked just slightly. Maya saw him blink rapidly and look away for a moment before meeting Emma's gaze again. "Sterling is an excellent name for a superhero," he agreed. Over the next 3 months, something beautiful and unexpected began to unfold. Emma's health stabilized and began improving dramatically, whether due to the excellent medical care her new insurance provided or simply the reduced stress in their lives. Maya couldn't say. What mattered was that her daughter was laughing again, planning for the future, talking about what she wanted to be when she grew up. Alexander, meanwhile, began to change in ways that were subtle but profound. He started leaving work earlier, not because he had somewhere to be, but because he began to understand the value of time that wasn't monetized. He asked Maya about her goals beyond Emma's health, whether she'd ever considered going back to school, what dreams she deferred while focused on survival. "I wanted to be a teacher," Maya admitted one afternoon as she organized Alexander's calendar. "Elementary school. I love watching kids discover new things about the world." "What's stopping you now?" "Time, money, the usual obstacles." Alexander was quiet for a moment. "Sterling Industries has a continuing education program for employees. Full tuition, flexible schedules, guaranteed position upon graduation. You should look into it." Maya looked up from her computer. "Why do you keep doing things like this?" "Like what?" "Going above and beyond what anyone could reasonably expect. The job, the insurance, Emma's gifts, now this. I can't figure out your angle." Alexander smiled a genuine expression that transformed his entire face. "Maybe I'm learning that some things don't have angles. Maybe I'm learning that kindness doesn't require justification." The real transformation became evident when Alexander started joining Maya and Emma for their Saturday park visits. It began accidentally. He'd stopped by the warehouse to pick up some files and found them preparing to leave. Emma had immediately invited him along, with the straightforward logic of childhood that saw no reason why their friends shouldn't come play with them. Watching Alexander Sterling billionaire tech mogul patiently push Emma on swings and help her feed ducks revealed a man who had been starved for simple human connection. Emma, with her illness-sharpened intuition, seemed to understand that this powerful adult needed friendship as much as she did. "Mr. Sterling gets lonely," Emma confided to Maya one evening. "Like I do sometimes when I'm too sick to play with other kids. But we're not lonely anymore because we have each other." Maya realized her daughter was right. Somewhere along the way, they become an unlikely family bound not by blood or obligation, but by choice and genuine care. The final transformation came when Alexander made an announcement that shocked Maya completely. "I'm restructuring my personal foundation," he told her one morning. "I want to focus on supporting families dealing with childhood cancer, not just research, but practical support. Housing assistance, transportation, family counseling, educational support. I want you to run it." "Me?" "Alexander, I don't have any experience running a foundation. You have something better. You understand what these families need because you've lived it. You know the difference between what looks good on paper and what actually helps real people." Maya stared at him, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was offering. "This is about more than your Aunt Rose, isn't it?" Alexander nodded slowly. "It's about learning that success without meaning is just expensive emptiness. It's about discovering that the best things in life, friendship, purpose, love, can't be bought, but they can be built. You and Emma taught me that." 1 year after the incident at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel, Maya found herself back in the same ballroom, but everything had changed. She wore an elegant dress instead of uniform, attended as Alexander's guest and co-director of the Sterling Family Foundation. Emma, healthy and vibrant after completing her treatment, sat beside them in a miniature version of Maya's dress, her hair grown back thick and shiny. The evening's charity auction was raising funds for the Foundation's newest initiative, a comprehensive support program for families dealing with childhood cancer. Maya watched as Alexander commanded the room's attention, but now she saw something different in his demeanor. The cold calculation had been replaced by genuine passion for the cause. "Before we begin tonight's auction," Alexander said from the podium, "I want to tell you about 3 people who changed my life. A waitress named Rose, who showed kindness to a foster kid who needed it. Her niece Maya, who taught me that dignity and grace aren't about money or status, but about how we treat others when we think no one is watching. And Emma, who reminded me that hope is the most powerful force in the universe." He looked directly at Maya and Emma in the audience. "A year ago, I thought success was measured in stock prices and profit margins. I've learned that real success is measured in lives touched, problems solved, and love shared. Tonight, we're not just raising money. We're investing in hope." The auction raised over $2 million, enough to support 50 families through complete treatment cycles. But for Maya, the real victory was watching Emma bid enthusiastically on a painting of dragons, with Alexander's money, of course, her eyes bright with health and happiness. Later that evening, as they walked through the same hotel lobby where Maya had once been escorted out in humiliation, Emma tugged on Alexander's sleeve. "Mr. Sterling, are you happy now?" Alexander looked down at the little girl who had become such an important part of his life, then at Maya, whose friendship had taught him the difference between being successful and being fulfilled. "Yes, Emma, I'm happy now." "Good," Emma said with satisfaction, "because happy people are the best kind of people to be around." Maya realized that her daughter, in her simple wisdom, had identified the most important transformation of all. Alexander hadn't just become wealthy or powerful, he'd become happy. And in becoming happy, he'd learned to spread that happiness to others. The journey from that humiliating night to this moment of triumph hadn't been easy, but had been worth every struggle. Sometimes, Maya reflected, the worst moments of our lives are actually doorways to the best chapters we haven't written yet. As they left the hotel that evening, Maya marveled at how profoundly all their lives had changed. Emma skipped between her and Alexander, chattering about the evening's excitement, her laughter echoing off the marble walls that had once witnessed her mother's humiliation. "You know what the best part was?" Emma asked as they reached Alexander's car. "What's that, sweetheart?" Maya replied, "When that lady spilled her drink and you helped her clean it up instead of being mad. You showed her the same kindness Mr. Sterling showed us." Maya hadn't even realized Emma had noticed the incident. A guest had accidentally knocked over her wine glass, and Maya had instinctively helped, just as she would have during her waitressing days. But Emma was right, the motivation had been entirely different. A year ago, Maya would have helped because it was her job. Tonight, she'd help because kindness had become her default response to other people's struggles. Alexander smiled as he opened the car door for them. "That's how it works, Emma. Kindness creates more kindness. It spreads like ripples in a pond. Like how you were kind to us, and now we're kind to other people, and they'll be kind to more people?" Exactly like that. As they drove through the city, Maya thought about all the lives that would be touched by the Foundation's work. Families who wouldn't have to choose between rent and medical bills. Children who would receive treatment without their parents sacrificing everything. Parents who could focus on healing instead of survival. But the ripple effect went beyond the Foundation's direct impact. Alexander's transformation had influenced his entire company culture. Sterling Industries had implemented new family support policies, created scholarship programs, and established mentorship opportunities for youth aging out of foster care. His example had inspired other business leaders to examine their own definitions of success. Maya's journey from desperation to purpose had created ripples too. She completed her teaching degree through the company's education program and now spent weekends volunteering at the hospital, helping other parents navigate the complex world of childhood cancer treatment. Her story had become a source of hope for families facing similar struggles. Even Emma, at 7 years old, had become a force for kindness. She regularly visited other children in the hospital, sharing her art supplies and telling stories about dragons who protected sick kids. Her natural empathy, strengthened by her own experience with illness, made her a powerful advocate for other children facing health challenges. "You know what I realized tonight?" Alexander said as they pulled into Maya's driveway. "That night at the hotel, when you tore my pants, that was an accident." Maya laughed. "Are you suggesting I deliberately humiliated myself in front of 300 people? I'm suggesting the universe has a sense of humor about bringing people together who need each other." Emma nodded sagely from the back seat, like how puzzle pieces look all wrong until you put them in the right place, and then they make a beautiful picture. Maya looked at her daughter, then at Alexander, then at the cozy home that was now possible because of an evening that had seemed like complete disaster. Emma was right. They'd all been puzzle pieces floating around separately until circumstances clicked them into place. "Well," Maya said, gathering her purse and Emma's auction prizes, "if that's true, I'm grateful for cosmic intervention, even when it comes in embarrassing packages." "Me too," Alexander said quietly. "Some of the best things in life come from moments that initially seem like the worst." As Maya and Emma walked to their front door, Emma turned back to wave at Alexander. "See you Saturday for Park Day." "Wouldn't miss it," he replied, and Maya knew he meant it. Standing in her doorway, watching Alexander drive away, Maya felt overwhelmed by gratitude, not just for the material changes in their lives, but for the emotional and spiritual transformation that had occurred. She'd learned that dignity isn't dependent on circumstances, that courage can be found in accepting help, and that sometimes the people who seem the most distant are actually the most in need of connection. But perhaps the most important lesson was that redemption stories don't require dramatic gestures or fairy tale endings. Sometimes transformation happens through small acts of kindness, repeated consistently over time until they become a foundation for entirely new lives. As she tucked them into bed, her daughter asked a question that had become their nightly ritual. "Mommy, what was the best part of your day?" Maya thought about the evening, the successful fundraiser, the recognition of their work, the celebration of how far they'd all come. But the best part had been simpler than any of that. The best part was watching you be kind to people, just because kindness is who you are, Maya said, kissing Emma's forehead. "That's who you taught me to be," Emma replied sleepily. "You and Mr. Sterling both showed me that being kind is more important than being anything else." As Maya turned off the light and headed to her own room, she reflected on the beautiful irony of their situation. What had started as the most humiliating experience of her life had become the catalyst for the most meaningful chapter of all their lives. Emma was healthy and thriving. Alexander had discovered the joy of genuine human connection, and Maya had found her life's purpose in helping other families navigate similar challenges. Sometimes, she thought as she drifted off to sleep, the universe's greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. The key is having the courage to unwrap them, even when they don't look like what we thought we wanted. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to spread the kindness that had transformed their lives. But tonight, Maya fell asleep knowing that they were living proof that no situation is hopeless, no person is beyond redemption, and no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. The story that began with torn pants and broken pride had become a testament to the power of second chances, the importance of human dignity, and the revolutionary potential of choosing compassion over judgment. And it was only the beginning.